Imagine it's 1905 and you're this guy. You're working to build Philadelphia's new metro system, which will open in a couple of years. The Chicago L system, Boston's T system, and the New York subway system have all recently opened. It's a good time to be in the metro construction field, right? You figure that Detroit, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, some of the largest cities of that time, are going to start construction next, right? Right? Well, that's not what happened, and none of those cities have a metro system. In fact, the next metro system wouldn't be built for another 50 years in Cleveland. After Cleveland, there's another gap, then a moderate amount of new metro systems that bring us to the modern day, with the most recent one opening in Honolulu. Why don't other major US cities have a metro system? I mean, other cities around the world have been building them at a breakneck pace. The world's busiest metro system, Shanghai's, didn't even open until 1993. But while other countries are speedrunning new metro system construction, we here haven't. This video is all about answering that question, and we'll get started after the bike bell. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, is the United States really lacking in metro systems? By my count, there are at least 13 in the US. They're in the top 3 largest cities, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, as well as major cities like Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. That's a lot of metro systems. But only 7 of the top 10 largest urban areas have metros. Dallas, Houston, and Phoenix don't. And only 3 of the next 10 do. Cities like Seattle, Detroit, Minneapolis, Tampa, San Diego, Denver, and Orlando are metro-free. These are cities with millions of people. It would be unheard of for cities that size not to have a metro if they were located in Europe. The largest city in Europe without a metro is Leeds, or the West Yorkshire area in the UK. It has 2.3 million people, which is smaller than all of the cities I just mentioned in the US. So it seems like, at least based on population, the US is lacking in metro systems. But they aren't lacking in transit systems generally. All of the places I mentioned do operate some kind of train or bus. Let's look at those cities in the top 20 without metros on the map again. All of them offer some kind of rail-based transit service, but there are definitely differences between them. All but Detroit, Tampa, and Orlando offer light rail service. Detroit and Tampa have streetcar lines, along with some of the other cities with light rail. Orlando doesn't have light rail or streetcar, but does have a commuter rail line, which some other cities have as well. All offer varying amounts of bus service. Maybe the title for this video should really be, why do cities choose to build light rail or streetcar lines instead of metro systems? It's a good question too. Let's look at the relative differences between the different types of rail systems. I'm going to be speaking in generalities here because a lot of this comes down to implementation. And there's a great variety in the quality of systems. But we're going to be listing these train types by speed and capacity. At the top is the metro. These can be called a few different things depending on where you are, like the tube, the underground, or the subway. In Chicago, it's called the L for elevated. They're also called heavy rail as opposed to light rail. I like the comparison of trains that LA Metro uses to describe the differences, so we're going to use their numbers. A heavy rail metro system can carry about 810 passengers on a typical 6-car train. It can operate at frequencies of every 5 minutes. Other metro systems around the world can operate faster, as fast as they can unload and load passengers, as fast as 90 seconds to 3 minutes between trains. Metro trains can reach speeds of 70 miles per hour, but the average is about 35 miles an hour. There's one additional note that LA Metro makes. These systems almost always run above or below grade, completely separate from traffic. They're not running in mixed traffic or even sharing tracks with Amtrak or freight rail. They have dedicated, separated corridors designed for speed and efficiency. Now, with all this speed, efficiency, and capacity comes a high price tag. I'm not even going to call it the cost per mile or per line, as I'm posting this in a time of economic uncertainty and the possibility of inflation. My numbers are probably going to be out of date by the time this video hits YouTube, but it's expensive to dig tunnels or build overhead tracks, and that helps make metros the most expensive form of rail transit typically. But it can be worth it to move so many passengers so fast. Let's talk about light rail next. It's America's favorite form of rail-based mass transit that doesn't include historic streetcars or cable cars. Why is light rail so popular? Well, it's cheaper to build, for one. Most light rail runs at grade for most of the line, meaning operators don't have to build expensive tunnels or viaducts. It can be 2 or 4 times cheaper than comparable heavy rail metro systems. Cost matters in American cities where transit isn't really a high priority. It can be difficult for the city to get public support for tax revenues to pay for building and operating lines. Light rail is also lower capacity than heavy rail, but many US cities currently don't have high demand for transit service. And we'll talk about why that is in a minute. Light rail is a sweet spot where it's the right capacity for the right price. Users still get the benefits of a rail, a smooth ride, comfortable trains, faster speeds, but at a more reasonable price. Light rail trains operate at a lower capacity. According to LA Metro, their cars have capacity for 135 passengers, and a full train can hold just over 400. They can operate at 5 to 6 minute headways, which is less frequent than metro systems around the world. Streetcars are next. Their operating speeds are quite a bit lower than heavy rail and light rail. They may even be slower than buses in some cases, which hinders their effectiveness as a form of transit. I used to live just off of a streetcar stop in Portland, Oregon, and I could pretty much walk faster than the streetcar to my destination, which was only a couple of blocks from another streetcar stop. But they were definitely nice if I was lazy or if it was raining, and they would certainly be great for people with mobility issues. Streetcars have often been deployed as a form of economic development or a tool for urban revitalization. They're transit as stimulus. Laying down tracks indicates to developers that a city and transit agency are making a long-term public investment in that area, and private money can soon follow. You can see the Pearl District in Portland is a great example of this. No surprise that the city built another line in the South Waterfront District, and you can see what happened there. Anyway, the bottom line is that streetcars are slow and have lower capacity. They're also less flexible than buses. But hey, they do look cool, and they're generally less expensive to construct than light rail, so it has that going for it. Commuter rail is a regional train service that often runs on freight or Amtrak tracks. This means that it sometimes runs at grade, though it can't have the same signal priority other trains do, meaning it can make pretty good time. It often has more seating to make longer commutes more comfortable. Some commuter rail lines in the US run only during rush hour, or more frequently at rush hour. Commuter rail can be an excellent complement to metro or light rail systems, as it can connect farther flung suburban communities and facilitate commutes, while metro systems can handle higher volumes and more urban traffic at all hours. Those are the 4 major forms of rail-based transit. Of course, buses exist, but that's a whole nother video, though a really interesting one. Buses are actually my favorite form of transit. But this is a video about metro systems, so let's stick to rail. And I didn't forget any relevant train system, did I? I said, relevant train system monorail. Go back to Disneyland. When I was talking about light rail, I alluded to the demand most cities have for transit. It's not as high as in other places in the world, like European or Asian cities. Why is this? Well, it comes down to density. If there is any axiom or concept to know about city planning, it's that land use and transportation are 2 sides of the same coin. You cannot talk about one without talking about the other. Transportation is literally a form of land use, and urban land uses cannot exist without the access transportation provides. The relationship gets more complicated than that too. Certain transportation modes work better for different densities. You're never going to generate enough ridership for a train in a rural area. There are certain density thresholds you need to meet to make transit service make sense. Density here in the United States is measured in a metric called dwelling units per acre. We're trying to say homes instead of dwelling units these days to avoid jargon. And I know many people, both living in the US and abroad, can't visualize an acre. Well, a football pitch, or soccer field as we call them here, is 1.86 acres in area. So let's use that as a visualization tool for this next bit here. According to research and guides published by transit agencies, for successful transit-oriented development or housing within a half mile of a transit stop, you'll want something like 30 homes per acre or 56 homes per football pitch. This is enough people living nearby to make the line make economic sense and fill the trains to a reasonable degree. You'll generally want 50% more density to support a heavy rail metro system. That's 84 homes per football pitch. The problem is that pretty soon after our rail construction workers started daydreaming of metro systems everywhere, seemingly every household in the US bought a Ford Model T and moved to the suburbs. The first wave of suburbanization was indeed streetcar-induced, but soon after, people were buying cars and moving to areas around cities, settling in communities closer to 6 to 10 homes per football pitch. That's far below the threshold for any kind of rail transit, let alone a heavy rail metro system. I know that I'm simplifying things here, as that there are also job centers that warrant transit, but neither housing nor job density have really reached the heights of turn of the last century America. Instead, we have job centers that look like this. So that's the basic answer for you. Why don't we build more metro systems like the one in New York? Cities in the US sprawled out, making transit service impractical. When cities began to see the value in density, light rail offered a better combination of cost and passenger capacity than heavy rail metro. But you might be asking yourself, then how did a whole bunch of metro systems get built in the United States after 1910? That's a good question. Let's get into it quick. The next city to get a metro system was Cleveland, Ohio. It's a bit of an odd duck timeline-wise, and they only built one heavy rail metro line, and the rest of their lines are light rail. After Cleveland, there was another gap, then a whole bunch of metro systems constructed, including BART in the Bay Area, Washington Metro in DC, MARTA in Atlanta, Baltimore Metro Subway Link, Metro Rail in Miami, and Metro Rail in Los Angeles. Many of the systems began their planning in the 1960s during a rapid expansion of transportation infrastructure in the US. Most of that money went to highway construction, but in 1964, LBJ pushed the Urban Mass Transportation Act through Congress as a part of his Great Society agenda. This provided matching funds with local and state dollars for transit that didn't exist before. It was re-upped in 1970 and on and on. Here's a chart of transportation spending, and you can see that there is an increase in funding starting at that time. But you need more than money to make transit happen. You need political will, people to want transit. In 1968, the city of Seattle voted on a proposal for a 47-mile, 30-station metro system that would have completely transformed the region. It had a $1.15 billion price tag, but the federal government would pay for $800 million of that project. Even with the federal commitment, voters failed to reach the 60% threshold needed for it to pass. It failed again in 1970, and the dream was dead. That money went to fund MARTA, Atlanta's metro system. Since then, only San Juan and Honolulu have built metro lines, leaving many cities without one. So does it make sense to build more metros? Well, it's difficult because a lot of those cities already have light rail systems. And increasingly, cities with light rail systems are using them more like metros or are considering it. Seattle's light rail runs in a tunnel downtown, for example, and a future expansion will also be tunneled. Portland is considering a new tunnel under downtown and the Willamette River to gain some of those speed improvements metros offer due to grade separation. But what do you think? What cities should consider metro construction next? Life wasn't easy for that guy back in 1905. He couldn't even stream his favorite content creators on the streaming service Nebula. He was missing out on all of Nebula's key benefits: ad-free, early releases, and high-quality original content. We don't have to worry as much about pleasing the algorithms to get views over there. We're all about making the platform great for viewers. We use a subscription model that's much more stable and sustainable. A ton of that streaming revenue is going right back to the creators to produce Nebula Originals. I have a whole bunch of Nebula Original content for you to check out, including my Great City series. It profiles some of the most iconic parts of the world's most important cities. I also produced Planning Ancient Rome, a never-before-seen visual history of the ancient city. It's some of my best work because Nebula provided additional resources, and it's only available on that platform. Other great creators are publishing Nebula Originals on the platform as well. The ever-popular travel game Jetlag is producing season after season of excellent content. It won a Webby Award recently. Congratulations. And Nebula is moving to narrative content as well, so we got you covered with both nonfiction and fiction content. In all, Nebula offers you, the viewer, an ad-free experience filled with videos produced by a curated group of thoughtful YouTubers. And those thoughtful creators are also publishing big-budget, high-quality exclusive content. And you can get all of this for a surprisingly affordable price. And when you sign up at my link, nebula.tv/citybeautiful, you'll get 40% off an annual subscription. My channel will even get a portion of that subscription fee as long as you stay subscribed, so it's one of the best ways to support me and this channel. Nebula is also offering lifetime memberships for people who want to go above and beyond in their support of the channel and the platform. I love that we have a couple of different ways for allowing people to show their support. And if you want to help others support City Beautiful, Nebula now offers gift memberships. So sign up using the link on screen or in the description and get yourself or someone you love a subscription.